Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful morning, so it is. Listen, I just want to give you a little bit of the background of what I am, who I am. Here's give you a little bit of idea there. I spend half the year in Ireland and half the year here in the beautiful province of BC. I'd like to be here full time, but if a business it's like a noose around my neck, the tackle trade, so I have in Ireland. The premise of this little demo today is basically on using these casts that everybody becomes quite proficient at to actually start to catch fish. There's a lot of good gear anglers in the Fraser Valley here that actually laugh at us when we step into a river. Why? Well, we've got our 1,000 bucket waders, we've this, that, the other. That may be a part of it sometimes, but basically it's because they see us first thing in the morning walking in over the top of the fish, rather than thinking where are the fish likely to live. I fish a lot for steelhead. I mean, I do love steelhead fishing. That's what's really brought me across here. But Atlantic salmon fishing in the UK, Europe, Ireland, Scotland, all of that, they're very similar, very similar. So they're an admirable species which goes to sea and comes back to breed. So basically, the main part that I want to show to everybody here is that we don't just start to throw lines across the river and basically not think about what's going on. I think what is wrong with what a lot of fly anglers do go the wrong way about things here is they use this term swinging for fly, swinging when we're fly fishing. People never move beyond that. They forget about where the fish are actually at. The only thing that we should be swinging is if everybody gets together in some tent later on. So they should. For the wives and husbands that have wives and husbands. But basically, that said, it shows that a lot of people just cast a line across the river and don't think of where the fish will be. If I was starting off, say, well, imagine that we're in river left here, all right? Everybody's okay with river left, the river's running from my right downstream to my left shoulder. So it's running this way. If I was starting off in the morning, that I got there early enough that yourself hadn't been in front of me, the first thing I would do, I wouldn't bring the head off. A lot of us automatically think with skagit fishing or shooting head fishing that we've got to get that head off out of the rod tip and bomb it across. Don't do anything differently to what you'd have done when you were using your center pin or your gear rod. Basically fish the water around you. I've got my fly, I'll hold the fly in hand and I'll work out, I mean it's just about the tip. Just going to flick off. I'm not stepping anywhere near the water. Like we do often, and I'm doing the demonstration with a double-handed rod here. I do say double-handed, not Spey. Because a Spey rod is any form of fishing rod you put in your hand. It's not anything over 11 foot, and it's not anything beyond that. A lot of people think Spey is just double hand. We can Spey fish with everything. What a Spey cast is, very simply, is a roll cast with a dramatic change of direction to facilitate, or with some body rotation to facilitate a change of direction. Anybody, I've seen quite a few faces that have been on clinics of mine before that will be aware of the impetus I put on basically the roll cast. If you can roll cast, you can Spey cast them. I mean, this little demo is more about the fishing end, but if anybody's any questions through it or wants to see me after it, please feel free to. Having said that, I'm going to pop in a little overhead cast to still fish that out, because we do catch fish in there. If you're there just coming on first light, the fish have all relaxed through the evening, they've come into the site, so they have, I've saw many's a time, I've been pushed, the Vedder's a fairly busy river, and I do fish it a good bit. I love it. If you put it anywhere else in BC, it would be talked about by everybody, not in the way sometimes it's chatted about. It gets that little bad name sometimes because of how busy it gets and some of the practices we see going on. But I've seen little runs sometimes where I've had the fly rod, you've gone there for first light, you get there and you saw there's guys that camped out all bloody night. They're there before you in what you call the money water. I've gone down to the tail out, which you wouldn't do in the UK or Ireland because you'd be shot. One thing that we should all sort of band together with is to try and get some form of etiquette going on so that you can't step down in front of somebody. Within the UK and Ireland we've got a step system, and for the gear anglers it all works well as well. The fact that if there's a gear angler here and there's nibs the fly angler or her nibs the fly angler coming down from this direction, we'll cast, step, you know parts of the river that are going to hold more fish and take up more fish, so you'll take a couple of extra casts before the guy coming behind you will go, right, good, move on. The gear angler that's here in Ireland and the UK will go out for that couple of minutes if he's fishing the worm or whatever. He'll let you go through, you'll have a nice friendly chat, you'll not curse and want to fight him. So you'll move on down through. It's worked for 100, 200 years in Ireland and Scotland. I really don't see any reason why it shouldn't work here. So to be honest, that's nothing to do with what we're doing in the water, but it is something that possibly, if there's enough of us starting to sort of chat about this, we won't have the low hauler idea. So we won't. It's quite annoying. A lot of the time, you'll see a nice run, and you'll want, if you get there and there's nobody there, you'll think, right, I'm going to actually work right through where I think there's fish, and then I'll leave the tail out until the end. Most of the times, but you're forced into a tail out, which is where, if you're an experienced angler, you'll know there's an awful lot of fish anyway, because they'll rest whenever they come up, and they'll drop back through pressure through the course of the day. Right, those little overhead casts, sorry if I'm going to hit anybody there, but I haven't spey cast this thing yet. I haven't even stepped into the water. All right, you're going to fish it out round. You'd imagine that I'm putting it across, the river's pulling it across here onto the dangle. I'm still getting to fish that water before I move anywhere near. Now I'm going to lengthen out a little bit. Now I might bring in a little mini roll cast. You wouldn't even call this a spey cast because I'm able to drag all the line. I'm able then to pop across, pop it over, and we shoot a little bit more. So you're fishing that water that most fly anglers will just go. Right, we're fishing. Okay, now I see it all the time, you know, and half the time through the course of the day, if you're standing, now the fish will be behind you. So they will. I got introduced to BC by bringing angling groups across the BC guides over here, and on every single trip I brought across, there was always that one guy or girl, girls do it as well, where they push out at the bottom of the run. Everybody else then that was there had to go out with them or fish behind them because the fish travelling fish come up behind them. All right, so having that said, that's basically put a bit of thought in before you move out onto the water. All right, fish don't live, well they live in the water, but they don't travel through the whole river and they don't lie in the whole river. I mentioned to Robert there, we were doing a little bit of casting earlier, that's why I was a wee bit late for this. I mentioned to him earlier there that if there was a hailstorm, all of us here, we've got this big wide open area here, and we wanted to get to the other end of the lake, we wouldn't stay out here and walk in that hailstorm. We would walk between the trees. We would take the area of least natural resistance. So this, hopefully, what this is part of the demo, is that you'll realise that the fish aren't always out there furthest away, and there's water that certain species don't go into. You know, it's like, I mean, they're trying to conserve their energy for one basic thing, reproduction. If they use all that energy before they get the length of that and they're hooked and back to it, well, they don't even get to reproduce. So what I say is that they do take those little seams, lines, movements, they'll like a bit of cover because of prey. They've just come from sea where every bugger's trying to kill them. They come into the rivers and the shallow pieces, eagles are there waiting for them. So it's not, I mean, it's like look over your shoulder all the time. You're scared you're going to get pickpocketed. So bear that in mind whenever you do decide to throw a fly at a fish. Certainly for travelling fish, don't throw out into those fast seams where it's 8 foot deep. And, well, I'll just demonstrate what I see an awful lot of a throw across. So we'll pretend I've lengthened this out, then I might step into the water a little bit, just performing my D-loops and whatever. So basically there, so you'll get a lot of people and just bomb a line across. Whacking that, and it bounces back. You've overhit for the length of the line they're doing. This is another little bit, and the rod's straight. It's just straight across the river. The moment that water starts to pick up, especially with these Skagit systems and heads, they're quite thick, like rope. That surface tension starts to move that fly at an inordinate speed, i.e. it's going faster than the current. You can chat about fish being aggressive and chasing, but certainly for winter steelhead, you'll want to try and make sure you get that fly down and travelling at the same pace. I see it all the time in the clinics that have run through BC here, that people tend to be good gear anglers. They'll chat to you about being good centre pin anglers and fishing well and knowing where the fish live. They put a fly rod in their hand and it's as if they've had a lobotomy. They forget where to cast the line. So the point is that they'll throw it across like this. Let's just organise this. So the river's running that way. I'm just going to do a little snap T, circle C, hop it round, sweep it around the hand, and I'll whack it out straight, and the rod goes straight in the water. Now if this was a flow, if we were on a river, you'd really see this. That's going to come around there X amount of knots. I mean, I've been a casting instructor for 15 years. I'm an avid fisherman. I'm not just a caster. I mean, that's why sometimes, I mean, if I go back to the UK, it's all long belly, mid belly work. I've got to take 2 weeks of working about with mid bellies to actually, you know, test people on it and be half decent with it. But the cast goes straight out and then end up pulling around. And the point I was making there about being experienced is I still take a wee walk out the odd time whenever it's the pits. You know, when bright sunny day, you know, your chances are more minimal than they are on a and if you fish tide water or you're off the tide or whatever, there's times that you can take a walk out to where you fish. And I fish quite a lot with a couple of guys here in the local area that I'll get them to throw the fly. And I'll take a walk out to see what way that's behaving underneath the tension that they're putting on the fly. Okay, so I mean the point is that they'll throw across, if you throw across there, and that just comes straight, that's going to come round and be with us in seconds. If we want to get it down into the depths of the water, we can do a few things. We can use a weighted fly. What I see in a lot of my clinics is people landing with far too heavy a tip, using one tip all season long. I'm a big fan of the mold tip revolution that we've had. I'm too lazy to make my own. But the packs that you get in the store, the 6-pack, I don't think anybody should go fishing in this side of the pond. I mean, even the UK. I mean, I fished quite a lot of Skagit in the UK. It was, I mean, you're looked at as the Antichrist a few years ago whenever you first mentioned Skagit, but people are realising now it's a very effective fish catching mechanism. Developed by the guides to get a few bucks in their pocket for the tips. And, you know, they do allow you to adjust your depth if you've got an idea of what to do with tension and whatever. So if you've a 10-foot floater, you have a 7.5-foot floater fused to 2.5 foot at T8, T11, T17, T14. So they sink at different rates. Then you have a 5 and 5, half and half. You then have 2.5 a floating and 7.5. So that allows you to grade where you're at. If you were gear fishing, you would try and gauge the depth by either dragging on your float, you'd adjust your float so you get that, your bait 6 inches off the bottom. That's precisely what I try to do with my fly, and I think anybody that you see and you drive past or any of the runs that you can see from a car, you'll know if a person's actually fishing the fly rod properly, because they will have, I'll just demonstrate it. They won't have the rod cut straight down, they'll pop. See that, with that rod up there, I mean it's a two-handed rod, but I'm using it with the ends of my fingers here. So I'm to try and think of how I can get this fly, whatever weight the fly is. I did start to go into the fact that you can use a heavier fly and heavier tip. But I mean, I've caught fish I've caught wonder fish on the Vedder with floating lines on a 9-foot 6-weight when practicing for a course at the weekend on an 8-foot leader. So we're only fishing, sometimes we're only fishing 4 feet of water. 2'6", 3'6". Why use 20-foot T900 that you could probably pull one of those trees down with? You know, it's for me it's where we get the term then. Anybody that's fished in the area, and you'll have heard the fly flosser mentality as well. That's to do with people that, for me, are not actually fly fishing, they're fly casting across the river and just dredging everything. Oh, it's in the mouth, you'll hear that. I'm embarrassed as a fly angler to hear that. If anybody's said that in the past, it's in the mouth, please explode now and spontaneously combust, because it should be about making sure these fish take these baits. Because other than that, there's nothing different from doing a legal form. So there's not. So that wee thing I mentioned there about fishing with a couple of buddies, one of them, great angler, but he's quite a violent fly caster. But he still is able to throw a line so that I can walk and see what's happening when he's holding the rod high, when he's dragging some tension at it. Sorry about this. When he's got tension on it, and really this tension I mentioned, it comes with experience. So it does. You don't want to feel the tension that I would do whenever I pop that straight across the street. You don't want to feel that tension there, where you feel a real pull almost. That's going to come out too quickly. What I'll do when I pop it across, I'll do the stop, and then I may do an upstream reach. Alright, now you'll see, hopefully you'll see a half decent stop there. Dave mentioned it in his demo I heard. Stop is the secret to everything. If you don't have a stop and you only have a flop, you'll never be able to have time to do what I've just done there. Now what did I do to the untrained eye? What I did was I stopped the rod, and let's remember the stream's running this way. I moved the rod tip upstream and out. That's called an upstream reach bend, or a reach bend, pause the reach bend upstream. There's many things that we can do. We can go downstream. Does anybody know why we want to ever go downstream? No? I'm sure you probably do, just scared of getting it wrong. We'll do a downstream reach bend if we're looking to make that fly actually move a little bit faster. Say you were ripple hitching something. So I mean that's how you adjust the speed and the pace of what way that fly's going. I'll do it again here, I'll show what I mean. So we do our stop, there's the stop, and there's the bend. See what I've done? I've just brought that right in towards the bank, but I haven't taken the rod down. If I take the rod down, I do a lot of assessing for the FFF, the International Federation of Fly Fishers, and for an organisation in the UK called Gaia. And there's a lot of discord between, do you bring this on the examinations, do you bring your rod tip right down? Of course you don't. Why would you bring a rod tip down? It shows a nice straight line from the fly to the rod tip. But I would get even more drag there because of more line, and it's, that you're more line in the water. So basically when you do that stop, let's just pop it back down here. Up. Up. And look at how much time I have to do this. I have a lot of time. Ultimately, whenever we teach newbies or anybody to come into casting, we chat about straight line path. Get it stopped, get the line nice and taut. I think everybody would see it if I do it straight down here. So this is what we all strive for. I hope. It could be pure crap. This is what we strive for. Set up a dealer, transfer energy, do a stop, and then drop it, so that you've got a straight line before the next cast. Certainly in still water. Alright, I'll do it again. So hopefully everybody can see a stop and then a drop. Alright, you learn that way. You learn effective transfer of energy, weight transfer from back to forward. But once you get that, you then forget that. You've got the feeling, that gives you the feeling of what a fly cast is about. I did bring a blindfold today, but I forgot it. Well, I suppose I could use this. Just basically, a lot of the times, if somebody's having an issue with their stop, close your eyes. You'll find that you'll pick that up an awful lot, because a lot of people do this. So, because my rod tip's gone so close to the water's edge, I'm not going to have any time to do this manipulation. I'll do the manipulation this way. Hopefully everybody will see it. So whenever I do the stop there, see how the rod tip was away. The rod tip ends up out there, but I've got this belly that I can work with. Alright? There's a few other things that you can do. Now, as you find that line travels round this way, we can follow, we can slip more line into it, we can then follow around and then start, so we've got some form of tension from the flight. This really, mending does suit the mid-belly, long belly caster much more efficiently, because we're able to do an awful lot more with the line. A lot of us nowadays are using Skagit and Scandi heads, so we find that this is where all the weight's at. We can actually see it there, it's a big weight. This is fairly fine running line. A lot of us now are using the OPST laser lines, so you can't do a lot once they're gone. It's getting yourself set up for whenever you get the cast out there. But once I pop, under there, pop it. Now look at how much time I have there to do stuff with still. Alright? With the mid belly you can still mend or whatever. A lot of people do know the water mend, the on the water mend. That's basically where your fly line has been set. Now, I'm going to try something here. See if it'll work. Just pop it into the middle. Okay, right. So if I get the fly to there, and a lot of us see there, well, you'll see my rod and line here. Once I do it on the water mend, say I mend upstream now, look where that pulls that fly to. The fly's pulled back towards me, rather you've gone to the effort of getting it where you hopefully want it to. Now we do a reach mend, let's pop it, now there, that fly still lands to where I want it to. I shot a wee bit of line into it, but I'm still able then to fish that seam that I wanted to fish. And I just high stick round, pop, pop, but feeling some sort of tension. Not so much so that you feel it skating round, definitely enough that if you get a take, you're able to register and clam ready to fish. Other wee things we can do that you'll see a lot of single-handed demonstrators do is they'll do wiggles, wiggles called serpentine casts. They're not just for single-handed rods. The serpentine cast is basically I'll pop it across, pop it there, and wiggle the rod like that. Now you get those movements through the line. Now ultimately with the shooting heads it pulls them out a little bit, but you still get them at the front of your head. Why would you want those? The water could be fairly flattish and moving at one single flow here in the first half of the river. And on the far side of the river where you believe to be fish, it could be flattish. But you could have a little faster seam in the middle. So those wiggles, by doing that plus a reach, you'll be able to get that fly down, because the only thing that limits us as fly anglers from catching fish is getting to the fish. And that's why a lot do use gear rods, because they can get where they believe we can't. These Skagit systems, I mean the new OPST, I mean it sounds as if it worked for OPST, it might be twice there. But those new shorter Skagit heads allow us to fish in areas where really it was always the realm of the gear angler. So we can actually pop in casts. I mean, even this was, say it was a wee narrow river. I could pop in a cast slightly upstream, and if it's fast water, stack, 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 stack. Like a foot by stacking, it's called, I've just said it's a stack, and we're popping the rod forward, then let that fly get down to where I want to. If you can't get it down to where you want to, you'll get the occasional aggressive fish, but more often than not, you'll be the one that goes fishless all day. So you do. So if it say a few words of it, just make sure you're using flies that are adequate in weight and size to get to where you want to. Also, another wee thing with the tips, I mentioned the mold tips. A lot of people think once they go to a heavier tip, they automatically go to a 1 foot or 2 foot or 3 foot leader. Think outside the box sometimes, because if you're fishing pressured water, you'll find that they'll see 10 gear anglers do the same thing. They'll see 10 fly flossers do the same thing. And if they maybe just have a 10 foot of T11 on and throw on a 10 foot leader, a 15 foot leader, with a slightly lighter fly, once your fly gets down to the bottom of the run where you may believe that there's fish, that's pulling that fly down rather than the fly, something different that does actually go beyond this mentality of just hey, I'm fly fishing. That's not fly fishing, that's fly throwing. So it is. Has anybody any questions there just before I move on off that subject? Anybody? We can all mend. So the mend occurs after the stop. And if you don't have a stop, you won't have any time to mend. So important. And just for anybody who regards proper modes of practice and whatever, I get people calling me all the time for advanced lessons, especially in the UK, where we all know everything. I mean, Irish people think that if they saw somebody fly cast, they're the expert. So we'll get a guy ringing and say, right, I want a lesson of snake rolling. And you'll spend 2 hours teaching them a roll cast. For the newbies that are here, just to give that a little bit of input, the roll cast is the precursor to all the Spey casts. Quite simple. We have what we call the anchor, the line and leader in the water. We have a D-loop, which is the line hanging off the rod. It forms this big D, okay? And for those to work efficiently, we want to cast straight down a line. So that's the 180-degree principle. All right, I'll just demonstrate. Lift. Drag the line into position here. Have a cigarette, roll yourself a doobie if you smoke. You have lots of time. Pop it forward. Any kids there? Sorry. Any kids? If there's any kids, my apologies. But you have lots of time. I see people doing roll casts like this. You know, you can hear that. And we as decent play anglers should be able to sneak up behind the gear angler. You should be able to cockney. I mean, literally, it should be. If you hear your cast, you know that you're actually using too much energy. And we think I chatted to Rob about earlier there was a lot of people do tend, you know, they just to facilitate a decent stop, they tend to use this sort of energy there. Like you can see, hopefully everybody can see that where the rod's just flopped down. That's because this top arm here's done everything. Most of what we do nowadays, so that we can facilitate to be able to mend, most of our styles is underhand casting, really. Carbon fibre lines and all have developed so much in the last 10 years that really the only time that you really use a strong overhand stroke is for the guys that are doing the distance stuff, because you'll need a really big long stroke, or for the traditional angler that's using the noodle rod with a mid-belly line, because you have a lot of line, you need to match that stroke, stroke like that. But for most intents and purposes, we're using the bottom hand, this hand, as the driving force. See how easy it is for me to facilitate a stop there, because it's like a stop on the block. There, there. Just to see it show you can do it with the other, well I can do it equally as badly with the other hand. There, there's the D-loop, there's the anchor, and we pull in with that bottom hand. This is the secret, that's what it is, to most of what we do. If I'll do a Circle C, which is a cast we use for an upstream breeze. Now there is a wee bit of a downstream, but we'll pop it across to here. I'm going to pull a mend into it as well, so hopefully everybody will see where I look and what way my body weight transfer will happen. Okay, low lift, lift up to unstick. Big mistake a lot of people make is they hinge here and then they end up hitting the rod and all sorts of crap goes on. Do a nice elliptical or a nice straight line lift, just as if you're dunking an apple out of the water. You know what I mean? Hopefully somebody's not just looked down and think, what the hell's he doing down there? And you can see what doing the wrong thing. It was a good demonstration of a mistake. Well, somebody looked down there and say, who's your man?
Yeah, that's right.
Bear with me a second, this is turning into it. Anybody any good with knitting? Now that's a classic example for the ladies there. Men can't multitask, can they? I mean, I'm trying to talk and do something there and I have to shut up for a second. Right, so what I mean is that dump. Imagine that there's a wall out in front of us here, and most of you will see this. When you do your initial lift, lift up as if you're lifting a shotgun. Not hinge it. Hinge it maybe if you're at a later date, but for now, anybody that's looking to just fix a few mistakes or make things a wee bit easier, lift it straight up. Alright, so that's lifting my sink tip in the water and my fly. So whenever I do my circle up and follow, everything's light. It wants to go nice and early. Now, I'm not going to carry that cast through because the ones that have been on my clinics before would say, Willie, you're not looking. The eyes are the biggest problem. So they are with fly casting. We lift, we follow that line. See where that lands. Now that's landed quite close to me. If I wasn't looking, I wouldn't know that. So I would go straight into stage 2. Probably have a collision loop or hit yourself. We don't want that. I'll just do it again. Now watch me neck. Lift. Watch where it's landing. Then follow the rod tip round, up to there, then do your bend. See, we have a lot of time there to be able to do that. You know, and even if somebody be saying, oh, he's not casting very far, let's just pull out a little bit more line. This was fishing earlier in the week up the terrace, and it has this roll. I just need to let it all out and walk in the water. What can I do? Right. So watch how little energy it takes whenever everything's correct. Vision's correct, rod tip pass correct, but watch for the end product, which is what this demo is about. Amend after the stop. Okay, we're going to lift, set, sweep. See how much time you have there. If you throw the rod down with an overhand style, you'll not be able to facilitate a mend. Whenever you mend, it's just going to be terrible. I'll demonstrate once more. I think Dave sent these here as traps. You're okay, don't worry. Lift. Watch. See where I've watched there. Now watch the tip of the rod. For this particular cast, we use a climbing curve where we lift, roll. What's the tension? Look at how much time you have. You have loads of time. One wee point, just on fishing as well. That showed the mend, the upstream mend. Sorry, the reach mend. So just up again. There. And then we can wiggle and do whatever. So that's the mend. If you want to cast to 45 degrees, this is just another fishing end of it. A lot of people they don't identify where they're going to start with, so they're not going to know where they're casting to and which type of mend they're going to require, which type of cast they're going to require. If you throw, guys, most of us know Stevie Morrow. Stevie and me did a lot of casting a few years ago together, and he came up with a little acronym, and the guys will have heard it before, TSR. Target, stance, and then react. Think of where you're going to cast, because if you're moving down through a run, the run changes. The river comes closer towards you, there's tongues over there, so you'll know whether you need to mend, high stick, flick, do whatever. But as you walk down that, look at where you're going to cast. Have that, most of us watch Simon Gosworth's initial video where he had a big bright orange line across the river. Think of that in your mind before you even attempt to cast. I see it all the time. People just cast and they'll pop in, they'll do like this, and they're rolling around, they're looking around there, and they're just throwing it across. They have no idea where they're going. If you look at it, think of that. Target, your stance is quite important. Whether you stand in a closed stance, which is, for me, being right-handed, but off my right shoulder, it's like a dart thrower stance. For an open stance, the javelin thrower stance. For me to throw a longer line, I would tend to stand in the open stance where I can pop there, and I've got all that stroke line. If I want to be really direct to, and sort of accurate, I'll use that dart thrower, because it's literally that. So you have that, but point your feet at, whichever foot you decide to, at an initial target. So if I go towards that buoy, he's called buoy over here, there, and I do the same movement that I did for a 90-degree change. The Spey cast generally suit a 90-degree change much easier than a 45. The only one that would say really suits a 45 well is a single Spey. It's a real bugger at 90 degrees. So it is, because you have a lot of a lift. Line your anchor up to be able to get it all together. So, in saying that, this suits 90. There, running parallel up the river, cast across. Alright. Now to do that at 45 degrees, people will still use the same setup, which is wrong. They'll use this there, then they'll start to go there, and if I freeze frame there, we get what's called a bloody L. And that's where a lot of people then overstroke, because they haven't made an adaptation through that before. They'll go like this, like that. Let's just pop it out. Again, I hope somebody, it's a fault, just in case somebody's looking down. So they'll do this, and we can see that big lateral sliding, hanging dead loop trying to move out. If we want to change to 45, let's address that in the stance and the setup to start with. There's my target. I'm going to lift the rod there, so I'm cutting it in towards you guys. I'm going to form my circular motion that I use to throw the anchor upstream out across the river. Let me just roll that, because this being still water, that tip's going round like hell. There, I'm going to do it across there. Now we'll see what's happened there. Hopefully you can see that my fly line, my leader, and my fly have gone at a 45-degree angle across the river. 45 degrees is half a 90 degrees. We've done the first half of the cast, so that's it, that half done. Now to facilitate that leader pirouette and go towards the target through stage 2, we just go straight. And there, everything's in line with that target. You get a much better transfer of energy. Now I'll do it in real time, because I know everybody thinks Irish are stupid, but if I had carried that cast through there because I'd stopped, I would have probably hurt the rod. So, or me, more importantly. Right, we're going to lift. It comes in bank. We're going to sweep around. We're then going to set to here and we're going to pop. Now there's no bloody hell there because I've changed my 90-degree movement from here simply to there. And that's with that initial movement where I come in bank and out and across. All of our casts we can do that way. If we decide to do, let's do a double spey. We're looking to do a double spey to that direction. What we'll do is we'll go lift. It looks weird because I'm coming in that way and then I'll set me across there. I'll sweep and then pop forward. And I won't catch in that bank. But you can see the premise of it. You're changing your 90 in the river so that you can facilitate a much easier change of direction. I'll just do a snap cast, or snap cast again. Lift, set, cross the river, sweep, use the eyes, use the body, and that's a nice true parallel look. A lot of what we see, what we think is experienced casters, they're pulling the wool over our eyes because they're changing everything and throwing it like this. Now to that, somebody over there, that'll look as if it's an inch loop. But to me here, that's an 8-foot loop going lateral. The only time we want to do that is if we're casting underneath trees. Yeah? Has anybody any question? Now that's just adding on to what you would do with your men, so that you're facilitating looking at the river, you're fishing it. You're not just going. That's what you see all behind the river, isn't it? With a fanny pack. Get out of the way, I'm a fly actor. I mean, let's try and up the number of fish we catch per cast. And we'll do that very much so by actually fishing the fly. Has anybody a question? Yes?
So you explained the TSR, TS, and what is ER?
React to that. So target, stance, and react in a manner that either you're going to either do single spey or double spey and just carry through that whole benefit of the cast. I mean, basically, in that you're taking into consideration what the wind is, because what cast we choose to do is determined by the breeze. This is where it's a good wee question because it runs me in just quite quickly before we finish up into what cast we choose to do. We shouldn't actually choose the cast. The wind tells us what to do. I'll do a couple here where I'm on river right and river left. Imagine I was on river right or river left here where the river's coming this way. We've got a downstream breeze blowing down this way. I do not want to bring that fly anywhere near the upstream side because if I do, like say I'll throw in a circle cast. Okay, watch where it's at, I follow all right. Here, the wind starts to blow that towards me, it makes it dangerous. Alright, so it's really not safe to use that. What I would use is a downstream wind cast, which can be the double spey, snake roll, there's a downstream very poke as well. I'll just demonstrate a couple of them so that you can see there. So, if I'm going to do a double, identify the target, change my stance. At the moment, I'm screwed here a little bit, alright? But basically what I'm looking to do is to do this cast. If I do that in front of yourself, straight down off the left shoulder, there's the weight transfer, everything's straight forward to the point. If I do this, I'm going to end up with that going across to this. So we'll do a lift. I'm going to hawk the line up beside me, just within a rod tip away. And quite close, the schedule will get quite close. See, I haven't used an awful lot of energy to bring that up, so the rod's fairly high. For most people getting into this, I'd say once you've done that, just drop the rod another foot. And then you want to come around flat because there's natural weight there at this moment, which actually starts to preload the rod. And as you move around, the rod will load. Because this anchor's so close in, if I drop the rod right down, whenever I go then out and around, I'm going to end up, we'll take the nose off somebody here. So that's why we use a slightly different loading plane with these particular lines. I'm going to go there, bring up, pause, just drop the rod. Don't forget you have a current, so and then go around, circle round, circle round, circle round, circle round. Now, with that breeze, that one, that stem downstream of me. Alright, we can also do the downstream poke, which is basically bring it in-stream of yourself. Okay, wrap around, and then sweep it. And you see the way it's all ending up with me having this little thing that you can see straight down. So the work's done help with the body. Other than that, you just cast off your arms. I did hear a demo a while back where a guy said you don't use your body. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. We are stronger in our core, and that's what Dave said about earlier in his demo when it's we chat at the start. We are so much stronger through here. Any sportsman using a golf ball or a baseball, throwing a football, it's weight transfer from a core that actually makes it much easier. The problem I see with a lot of people is they cast right off the hands, the arms like that. They'll get there, but they're able to fish for an hour and a half, where I can fish for days. Although I do like my food, it's off my food. So I do. So they got poke. The OPST again, the shorter one. If you were doing that poke, this is a longer, older schedule head. This is a flight, so I can get away with rotating that right around my body like that. It's a nice circular motion. With those shorter heads, basically don't make the stroke as long. All you do is just pop it straight forward like that. Okay? Then you sweep it in, and then you cross. I'll do it off this other shoulder here. Right, so if there's a downstream one coming this way from the person on river left, or river right, sorry, we're just on the left. Yeah. Pause, follow the line, forward into your man. Alright, so that's that safe there. Yep. Well, basically it's flicking, see that flick put in right at the very end. Dave showed very well and very gracefully his tail and loop on a sort of longer belly cast. That was putting the acceleration in at the wrong point. A lot of people, especially with these lines, they put acceleration in, just bear with me, they put acceleration in far too early. And it really, with Skagit form of casting, if you're getting into it, you don't do an awful lot of acceleration. It's a bit like when you go to an airport, you step onto a travelator, that gets you at one speed. You don't walk any faster, so you stay at that speed. So if you want to cast here, if we don't want to throw a long line, all we do is cast slow. There's no acceleration through that at all. That's why this form's quite good to most people. Once you get good at it, you can throw in a burst of acceleration the way you see me stop it there. That's done, if you're an experienced single-handed caster, that's done when you do your haul, right? In the very final third of the stroke. So imagine a big pulley weight here. There. So we're going to basically come around. Pause, we're going to take the rod out, circular motion that way, then circular there, around the pulley weight and forward. Most people tend to accelerate going up around that pulley weight, and that's when you'll get your heels. In fact, all the time you'll drag your loop as well. We'll just do it a wee bit further this way. Let's take a look at the rod tip now. Come around. Last second, pull. See, it's really at that last moment. Right, there's the body now. Now you'll see I turned the head after the anchor landed. I want to look where the anchor's at. You've got to look where once more. Look. There, now here. Now watch that. Oh, there's the little snap at the very end. That snapped it hard. With regards to, you do the exact same thing with the upstream breaks. Leave it upstream of yourself. Alright, now normally I would look, but I wanted to make sure you saw where it was pointing. And it's a good thing actually to practice these lifts before you even go into your mends. I think it stays one flip. What's that? Put it back down again. If I'm happy with that, see, that's all done from here. It's not done off the arm.
Can you do that downstream reach bend you were talking about?
Sure. Off this side, yeah?
Yeah, whatever side, yeah.
The downstream. Downstream's where you want to put a bit of pace in the flight.
Bit of speed in it.
Yeah. So basically, well, imagine the river's running this way. All right. Pop it round. Wait. See there, if that was running this way, I'm getting more surface area of line on that water, and I'm basically getting what would be a real problem in a fast current is now something where then good to do whenever you are. I mean, a lot of people automatically think that when you're casting into a fast current, you do an upstream bend. If you're fishing with a tip, you're better doing a downstream bend because that takes the pressure off the tip. So it does, you know. Good question.
Depending on the water.
Yeah, well, depending on the water. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're in, you know, if you frogish water here, and then faster water there, and you're looking to get to that slot where you know that there's been fish, you know, down where the guys are at. Generally, if you put it across, you won't. But if you do a downstream, it'll get it down.
Yeah, like when the fly is swimming, that's when it's working,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. But this gentleman's just made a very good comment there. But when the fly is swimming, try to think of how you get the fly swimming. Anybody else? Any other questions? No. Well, guys and girls, I think I'll maybe give that a wee wrap up on it if you don't have any other questions. But just to finish off, use your body, use your eyes for the cast, and then your eyes are also working to determine what bends you're going to do. So honestly, think of body transfer, weight transfer. It's not that difficult. The guys that have been in courses before, if an idiot like me can teach it, surely it must be easy enough to do. It really is quite easy. It's overcomplicated an awful lot. People go very technical with it, and it is literally. If you that wee cast I'm doing there while I'm chatting to you, if you practice that roll cast delivery, whenever you go to the river, well then your spey casts are basically, what's the delivery here? Oh, there's a roll cast. If I do a snag roll, there's a roll cast. If I do a double spey, the doubles and the parts are just manipulated through. There's a roll cast. You don't stop it, but it literally, that's where you become very good very quickly. Listen, thank you very much. Hopefully I didn't talk too quickly. I know I've shotgun a lot of stuff there, but trying to bring more than just tactics into it. Thank you very much.